Most of the fat loss advice that you're gonna find on the internet these days absolutely sucks. So instead of giving you another video that's just gonna waste your time and give you a bunch of unsustainable, unrealistic expectations, let me actually give you 5 key tips that I find to be highly underrated, especially after working with thousands of clients and producing thousands of successful transformations over the past 17 years. The first thing I would tell you to do is stick to similar meals most of the time. Now, I know you want more variety, but a lot of variety can do a couple different things. Number one, if the expectation is to cook a new meal, make something new every single time, that's gonna become really overwhelming and time consuming, and you don't have that kind of time, and neither do I. The second thing that we're doing is we're training our appetite to expect and want new things all the time. If our taste buds are constantly getting massaged and giving whatever they want, our cravings tend to get out of control. What I found working with all my clients and myself is the more we eat similar things, we still enjoy them, but it's just enough enjoyment to keep us going, not enough to make us want tons of different things. We definitely want meals that taste good, are easy to put together, but we want to be able to repeat these meals on autopilot so that we're hitting the calories we need to hit, we're getting the protein we need, and we're able to just basically get on autopilot day after day and not think too much about food. Now, before you hit the panic button, this might actually include meals at restaurants. There might be go-to meals that you pick up at places like Chipotle, or even fast food places in certain circumstances that still help you hit your calories and your protein requirements for the day. But nonetheless, you're sticking to the same choices most of the time. Save the meals out or the fancy recipes for the weekend, when maybe you have a family get together or a fight night with friends, and you wanna put together something that is gonna help you hit your goals and be something a little bit new to test out something that you haven't had before. Tip number 2 is to hit 10,000 to 15,000 steps per day. When you're getting into fat loss mode, the temptation to start hitting cardio super hard is definitely gonna be there. You might even start looking on Facebook Marketplace for a Peloton, or you might finally pick up that treadmill that you've always wanted. And those tools are great, and I own all of them myself, but I use them strategically, and most of the time I spend my movement time just simply walking. Instead of filling up your gym time with a massive amount of cardio, stick to weight training 3 to 4 times a week during that 45-minute window that you have. And then just throughout the rest of your day, work on moving more. A few things you can do to up your steps and make sure you're hitting that 10,000 plus steps per day. Start your morning with a 5 to 10 minute walk. Make sure you're parking further away when you run errands. Find 10 minutes during the course of your lunch break or your lunch hour to go for a walk. Start your warm up with a walk at the gym. Walk around the gym in between sets. Pace around your house. Take busy business meetings or calls that you just need to listen to something while walking. Finish the day with a walk, and you'll find that hitting 10,000 steps becomes really easy. And then ultimately, when you need to ramp up fat loss, you can increase that number and not feel like it's sabotaging your time. The next underrated tip is to eat the majority of your calories when you're the most hungry. Now, I'm not gonna throw another intermittent fasting video at you. In fact, if you wanna learn about intermittent fasting, I put together a whole intermittent fasting video. You can check it out here. And you can learn all about how I use fasting to hit my goals. But nonetheless, the lesson and takeaway here is to schedule the majority of your calories when you're the most hungry. Forget about the fitness myth that eating at night makes you fat. That's just not true. Ultimately, what will make you gain weight is eating too many calories. So if we get to the evening and you're tired from a long day and your cravings start to kick in and your appetite starts to pick up, it makes more sense to work with our body's natural desires at that time and ultimately have a ton of calories scheduled for that hunger window. This will help you avoid the guilt of eating too much at night and raiding the pantry for your kids' snacks in hopes that you somehow have the self-control to only have 1 or 2. Instead, have a big meal that's satisfying, that helps you hit your calories and your protein goals for the day. That way you can sleep well at night knowing you enjoyed a meal like a king and you still hit your goals. Forget about the eating every 2 hours, 6 small meals a day thing. That stuff is outdated, it's overrated, doesn't work, and ultimately will only lead to an out of control appetite and not having any calories left when you're the most hungry. Now, before I get into this next one, I put together a whole video on alcohol, because we're about to talk about alcohol, that I'd love for you to check out. The link is somewhere here. It's been one of my most popular videos and I think you'll get a lot out of it, so make sure you check that one out if you're interested in learning more about how to drink alcohol responsibly and still lose fat. Tip number 4 is this: avoid alcohol.
What did he say?
Now, you're gonna hate me, but I have to tell you what you need to hear, not what you necessarily wanna hear. Like David Goggins said, I'd rather you get what you need and hate me than hear what you want to hear and like me. But ultimately, you get the point. I gotta tell you what is actually gonna work, and what's gonna work with alcohol is avoiding it most of the time. Sure, you can get away with a couple drinks, especially as you get really lean. Your body is gonna process alcohol a little bit better when you're carrying less fat. But initially, my best suggestion is to really just put it out and just kick alcohol to the curb for a period of time. I would give it 30 days of no alcohol, and then maybe 1 or 2 drinks a week for a period of a couple months before incorporating another 30 days of no alcohol. Alcohol does a lot of bad things. Dr. Andrew Huberman recently talked about alcohol and said, honestly, there's really no benefit to even 1 or 2 drinks a week. It just doesn't do anything good for you and ultimately can hamper recovery and pause the fat loss process, which is not what we want. So as someone who's super busy, who really values his time, values his energy, I can speak for myself and say, I don't like being hungover, and I'm sure you don't either. And I don't like the bloat, the water retention, and just the overall crappy feeling I get after I have a few drinks. So when I'm in full-blown fat loss mode, alcohol has to take a back seat. I'll bring it back in for parts of the year where 1 or 2 drinks a week doesn't hurt my goals. But in this case, when we're trying to get lean, kick it to the curb for now. Tip number 5, and this one's a practical tip for your kitchen, especially for my fellow guys who really just don't like to cook. I happen to be a pretty good cook, but it's really a time thing for me. So when I do put together a really fancy, nice tasting, beautiful 5-star meal, it takes me a long time. It's like 45 minutes to an hour and sometimes even longer than that. So I rarely do it anymore. In fact, I bought an air fryer, which I think is something you should have in your kitchen if you're serious about getting lean. You can cook just about anything you're gonna need to have a meal plan that will help you reach your goals and ultimately look the way you wanna look. From salmon to burgers to steak to chicken to fries and a lot of other things can go in the air fryer. 10 to 15 minutes later, you're sitting in front of a well put together meal that actually tastes like it was on the grill or even in the deep fryer. Now I know for those of you out there who cook for a lot of people, a small air fryer might not get the job done, and that's totally understandable. Personally, I have a couple air fryers, and sometimes you'll see me firing up both of them in my kitchen to knock out meal prep for the entire family. Nonetheless, it just makes things easy and the cleanup is minimal, and honestly, it feels like I'm not doing any work to put together a 5-star meal. So keep an air fryer handy. It's gonna make getting lean a whole lot easier. That's all I got for you today. Those are my 5 most underrated tips to help you get lean in your 30s and beyond. If you wouldn't mind, leave a comment below. Let me know which tip helped you the most, and make sure you check out the alcohol video that I put together if you're curious to learn how to actually drink alcohol and lose fat. The link should be somewhere here. Hit the subscribe button, make sure you like the video, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Life moves fast, make it count.